right, cool.
Third time.
So that is in fact, I think, a very generic, overarching question, and so maybe we can dig into a couple of things. I know that one of the biggest enemies for MSPs is doing nothing, and so I wonder if some of our LCI partners on the call find that it's difficult to start, for example, in the QBR process or the budgeting process or any of those tasks, if there's a ton of setup that is required to sort of get to your first QBR or get to your first activity, so to speak. And maybe, the hindsight is 2020. Maybe it's already blurry from you've been doing it for a while. But perhaps you have it present enough to tell us a bit about what could have been easier during that onboarding process to just start sooner. And the reason I asked this question is because I get this Friday Forward newsletter from Robert Glazer, and he was talking today about one of the biggest enemies of just getting things done is not starting, because we realize that when we start, that is a guaranteed failure if we don't know where we're going, right? And so sometimes we procrastinate subconsciously. And so that's kind of what triggered this question of what would make it easier to just get started with some of these activities? Who wants to jump in?
I can, that's fine. I think the biggest thing we're dealing with, we use ConnectWise Manage. We've been using it for quite a few years with several different RMMs, and we're looking at data integrity, making sure that if devices are retired, if they're no longer existent, making sure that those devices that we're giving recommendations on, if they're 7 years old, haven't been, already replaced, and we just didn't know that.
I suppose. Yeah, and I suppose some of that is just data maintenance, definitely on the MSP side. But
yes,
I wonder, like, if part of a QBR, the customer, you were just maybe updating them on the completion of a workstation replacement project, and it triggered you like, oh yeah, we haven't actually decommissioned these 5 workstations or whatever. My question is, what is your typical process for decommissioning? Because I can see that maybe being a LCI driven process in some situations where you go and say, like, yeah, we decommission these 5 workstations, select, and maybe we can push out an inactive flag into ConnectWise Manager or something like that. I'm just kind of curious what the ideal process is in that scenario.
Yeah, right now we're using ConnectWise RMM and Automate, doing a transition over, and they have a retire process. It doesn't always translate back to manage, and I know that this is very ConnectWise Manage central, and something we are working with consultants for Manage to resolve. But if there's like a last active field, or like being able to have like a flag, like as you said, of, hey, this is the last time it checked in, what kind of availability that would be, if that's kind of something that, hey, we haven't seen this since June of 22. That'd be something to at least see.
Okay, I think that makes sense. And this is like flag it, so don't treat all the kind of devices the same. Be like, hey, these ones, if we're going to create something out of there, it's like these ones might be not exist anymore. Kind of let you know in some way. Yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense.
I wonder also, Andrew, if one of the places where this is most noticeable is right before a QBR. Like, you're preparing for your QBR, and you definitely don't want to go in with a list of devices that you have no idea if some of these are actually decommissioned or not. So maybe an input into QBR prep that tells you, hey, by the way, you're getting ready for your QBR. Here's a list of X number of devices that haven't checked in X number of days might be a useful report.
Yeah, and I have it right now. That's part of my, like, just checking, right? Like, as we go through this first time, it's making sure we clean up those older devices, clean them up and manage so we don't have those other ones. But as we, move forward, hopefully it's less of an issue, but still being able to have the devices being like, hey, we haven't had a configuration update since, blank.
Yeah, no, I think that's critical for I think it's interesting as part of the process before QBR, Luis. I was also talking to another LCI partner just on Tuesday, talking about specifically the contract management within Lifecycle Insights. And he was saying that it's obviously great to have those contracts in Lifecycle Insights. But the thing that he struggled with was sometimes having to validate whether those contracts are still relevant, or like run into the situation with clients before where puts a contract in front of the client and the client says, okay, that we don't have that contract anymore. And so I was trying to dig into how they actually go about validating that. I think it's a lot more straightforward on the assets side because you can look at that last login date.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good indication. But on the contract side, in terms of validating that these contracts are actually still relevant to the client, that one was a little tricky, I think.
That makes me think as well, adding new contracts, since you have to go in and manually add them, even if there's a flag that says how many haven't been imported from manage, that would be great to say, okay, I have a customer who added a contract, it should be in there, but going through that QBR process, being like, hey, there's this, one, okay, why is that one there? Oh, this contract hasn't been added because they added on something else.
Right.
And the contract isn't added yet.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's sort of like identifying new contracts in ConnectWise, for example, that have not synced into Lifecycle Insights. Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe giving an alert, say potentially if you're using the business review part of Lifecycle Insights, when you're setting up a business review, some sort of alert, right? Sort of like just in time when you're preparing for that next business review, saying, okay, X, maybe three contracts have been added in ConnectWise Manage that are not yet syncing to this client in Lifecycle Insights.
Yep. Or even just the contracts field under the customer report, where it has like import from
right.
ConnectWise Manage.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's 2 that haven't been added. Okay. Yep. You can either, clear the flag if you're like, oh yeah, I know those are like a retainer and we don't need to have that on here or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I can tell you too, we're Autotask Kaseya and we run into the same problem with assets aren't actually still in use. I don't know if we have a custom field set up. We at least have the RMM last seen piped into our asset table, so we can see the last time it was online. So we have that solved with that, but the ability to hide in the assets field is the only real tool I have right now to, if I know it's gone, I can hide it. And so I'm not talking to my clients about assets that are already gone, but most of the time I don't know. I'm not the one who knows that it's gone.
Right.
And the front side guys who are running through assessments and working on everything, they don't care if my report is right. So they're not flagging everything exactly how it needs to be to make sure that my report is right. So we do have a mismatch there.
I wonder if this kind of is calling for, Greg, for a workflow where, in the process of a QBR coming up on the scheduling, that there would be, a ticket created in the integrated PSA for, a task to actually review current devices. Like if there was a queue for specifically the folks doing the reviews or the asset checks and stuff like that. I don't know. That seems like the kind of thing that project management wise, a lot of automation could solve for that.
Kind of thinking that too. It's like the next step, right? We could flag it like, hey, this one might not be real, but how do we make that even better, right? Instead of having that there just with a flag on it.
I like that idea. One objection I know we'll get is clients with hundreds of endpoints aren't going to do a quick check.
The quick check of 300 assets.
Yeah. But those are less common for us.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you'd probably have whittled that down to just the ones that have been showing offline. So if we could, at least segment out the ones that seem to have been offline that need to be checked for accuracy of the QBR data, then I think that's a much smaller number in most cases anyways. Yeah, awesome comments. I love this type of conversation, by the way.
Andrew,
because sometimes
oh.
it surfaces other ideas. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, I put something in chat to you, Andrew, with the ConnectWise RMM and some of the things we can remap for that would help solve that problem on the assets.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll send that over to our infrastructure team and see
Okay.
what we can do for that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff.
Go ahead, Joe.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
Okay, great. So I am looking at the in the assessment section in Lifecycle Insights, and when you go to the form, it allows you to create a PSA ticket based on the item that you're assessing. When you switch over to the and that's typically viewed by the and utilized more so by the technical alignment manager in our organization. As the VCIO on my side, I typically look more at the item detail section. So when you check a particular item that's at risk, it will allow me to create a recommendation, but it won't allow me to create a ticket. So I have to switch back over to the other view in order to create a ticket for a particular item. And as I'm working through my process, some of those items that are at risk will more appropriately be addressed by a ticket internally, and some will be addressed by a recommendation that I have to present to the client before we can resolve it. So it'd be great if I could do a ticket or a from within the item detail view.
Mark, if you're online and don't mind bringing up the master demo and showing us what Joe was talking about, that'd be amazing. You might be able to do that in a matter of seconds, as predicted.
Look at that. Technology marching on.
I noted this as a feature request too.
I'm always at the ready, man. That's what I do. All right, so what he's talking about is when you do an assessment event. I'm sorry. Let me back up. This is an actual company. Yikes! I was just on a demo before this one. So all right, so I'm on assessment events, and when I go into an assessment actual event for them, when I click on one of these answers, I create a PSA ticket populates.
Correct. Right.
But that's the form view. What he wanted to do was an item detail. As he's doing one of these, if he wants to do a recommendation, you can actually just create a recommendation, but not a ticket is created until you save that recommendation. So until you actually link an asset for this recommendation, I'll just click on an asset right now. Until you save it, then you can create a PSA ticket for that recommendation in item detail, but not a recommendation or not a PSA ticket on item detail itself.
Right.
Hope
And
that helps.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily need to create a recommendation.
Yeah.
I guess I could, but it's sort of like an extra step because I know if it's like if all it is a password change, for example, that the client doesn't even need to be, doesn't need to be on their radar.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So adding one here would definitely be cool.
Yeah,
I agree. Put a +2 on that for me, Jeff. I know Joe asked for it. Mark asks for it. Asks for it too. Thanks.
Just a little bit easier. Just select the item and then be able to create the ticket just like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
No more
From
steps.
here, maybe something that just an added button, create PSA ticket instead of create a recommendation or something like that.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Or just side by side, right?
I've got a similar request, almost the exact same thing, but while you got your screen up, Mark, over under recommendations when you're in the not roadmap view, when you're in the table view.
Oh, sorry. And recommendations?
Yeah, so I spend most of my time in the roadmap view, but when you go to this list and you're just trying to go through stuff, it'd be nice to see which ones have tickets. Not the roadmap view, the one you were on.
Oh, the list view, this one.
Yeah, to see which ones have tickets or to be able to
Okay.
put them on or not right there would be nice.
Okay, just want to let you guys know that ConnectWise opportunities, if you have ConnectWise right now, and it is a feature parity that we're planning to build for all the other PSAs, but at this moment, you have the ability to either create an opportunity or link it to an opportunity in ConnectWise. But yes, tickets as well here. Please and thank you, Jeff, +2 on those. Thanks.
Got it.
And that's more so just so you have all the information there. Like, have I already created a ticket for this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
That'd be
a good one,
nice.
Greg.
So just to follow up from Kelly, who's working under the alias of Wes Boggs today, Kelly mentioned that there's an interesting challenge there with what Kelly is describing in the chat, where the agent somehow stops working and then managed marks it as inactive, and then it drops off of the LCI asset list if it was inactive in PSA. And so I guess what you're suggesting is the ability to perhaps alert you that this device is actually now inactive in manage, but not necessarily drop it off the LCI list until you take action specifically. And maybe there's, there could be a number of reasons for that. Perhaps IT asset disposal comes after the agent's removed and the device has been taken off, and maybe you still have to do a data transfer in the replacement process. So I get there's a number of scenarios where you might still be working with the asset and don't want it to drop off the LCI list. Hopefully I captured what your idea there was.
Yes, you did. It's just then the client, I send them the list and they say, oh my gosh, where's this laptop? Or, where's this one? And then I have to go back to the old lists and find it, mark it active in ConnectWise, resync it, put in a ticket for the guys to reinstall the agent.
So it just sort of shows up again in LCI. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I'd rather, because I'm always making notes on the ones I want decommissioned or if they've been decommissioned. And so, I don't mind hiding them. I'd rather be able to see them.
Now, Andrew, this behavior is similar with Lifecycle Manager, correct? Like when an asset drops out of PSA and that's the only integration, it would immediately drop off the lists in a Lifecycle Manager as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
within syncing time.
Yeah.
24-hour cycle.
Interesting.
So that kind of ties into the other one where it's kind of like the status of the item, right? Like there's the original request of, hey, if something is like, we haven't seen it synced up in a long time, it might be gone. But this one is, it hasn't reported to ConnectWise, but we still want to think about it. It sounds like we want control of it, right? We don't want just automatic. So would it help to be able to kind of almost like bulk edit items? Be like, hey, I want to see all items that are disappeared from ConnectWise, but they're still in here, so I can manage them myself. Is that kind of what we're looking for?
I think, Adam, this is why IT people like Android, is because they get settings for everything. And so what I'm predicting is that there's probably going to be a request for, like, just give me the, some people are going to want to drop off automatically. Some people want the control. And so they're going to want a preference checkbox somewhere to say automatically, make assets disappear when they go inactive in PSA, for example, or something like that. Which kind of solves for both use cases, because then if it's not selected, then the assets stay there until you manually hide them.
Gotcha.
I'm just trying to make things difficult for you.
No, that's totally fine. Yeah.
I keep a token Android device here in front of me so I can save face in front of the IT community, by the way.
Adam hasn't had anything difficult since Rafa Nadal, so.
Yeah, right. Let's keep that joke going.
You're gonna get if you're not sick of it already, Adam, very soon.
Yeah.
Joe, I hadn't heard it for years, and now it's that joke's coming back again, so it's good.
Making a revival.
Awesome topic so far. Definitely encourage other folks to jump in. And back to my original question, if you can think back to when you were onboarding LCI, what would have made it easier to just get started? And especially since we are focused so much on trying to automate data collection and automate all the pieces, was there anything that could have been made easier by having some of the data just automatically populate, or some of the tasks automatically populate, and so on? And Shay, you may hear about these a lot since you do some of that pre-sale stuff.
I think some maybe the potential of automation around creating recommendations has come up from time to time. So kind of setting parameters on, okay, if asset reaches Ajax, a recommendation is automatically created, or a workflow around that. And then even better, if we can link that back to an opportunity with automation in ConnectWise, Autotask. But again, kind of parity around, do I want this automation in place or not? So having the option is, of course, going to be paramount.
Yeah. Any kind of hot takes on that? Like, is you guys begging for more automation? So you want more control working well the way it is?
Automation is great until it's not.
It sounds like everything in life, Shay.
Something really similar we've talked about a lot is we have template recommendations and we have assessment items where as soon as the assessment is a red check, I want to be able to just automatically attach my template that is a recommendation for that exact being read. And as soon as I check it, I can make that template show up on the roadmap for recommendations. Some of our
Yeah.
questions, we don't have that clean, but a lot of them, it's like, if you don't have this, we have a service, we know how to solve it. It's $1,500 flat fee. Let's get it in there and recommend it.
Right. And
So
not
is
have
that
to
like
manually apply every
prompting the
time.
recommendation from when you check the box on the assessment?
I don't know if
Or-
I need it to be automated to create it, but something that lets me, as soon as it's read, I can say, make a recommendation, and it's like, this is the pre-chosen recommendation. Do you just want to grab that template and push it? Yes. Like, that's all.
Right.
I was thinking.
So you're tying the recommendation template directly to the assessment item that corresponds to. Okay.
Like an
Take that
if
at a
score is
level-
red, then go get this kind of statement.
Right.
Take that a level deeper and kind of start thinking about tying in a bit of automation into assessments, whereby if we now have a linked recommendation template to an assessment item, if that recommendation moves from proposed to planned or customer accepted, that then changes the assessment item response.
That would be perfect.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, right now assessments are super powerful and highly customizable, which is what inhibits us from automating it, right? Because something that is as customizable as assessments are can't really be automated. But there's some smaller things we can start to work at and bringing in automation to assessments like this.
Would that
Go ahead.
change
Go.
Sorry, just a question. Would that, the way you're thinking about it, Shay, and maybe Greg, like, say, okay, you have an assessment item, say it's at risk, and then you have the recommendation and that recommendation's executed, meaning that that would change to satisfactory or whatever.
I would, I
sorry.
would prefer to see a wizard for that pops up and says, these are the assessment items associated when you close the thing is completed. Today, if you have a contract associated, it's like, do you want to convert to contract to something? That same idea of like, did any of these change to green? And you can say, we got these 3, but we missed this one, just for that flexibility.
Right. Okay.
Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
that makes sense.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Kelly, you had a couple more questions?
Yeah, I do. First, I just want to say, Shay, I think you look like a young Littlefinger. Since we're talking
About doppelgangers? Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right,
That's
Game
a
of Thrones.
first.
That's messed up.
Sorry. When smile back, is there any way that I can make it so that I only need to show the last 6 months or 2022? Right now, when I integrate smile back, it's pulling like everything back as far as it could be. It's just pages and pages long. Same thing with know before. Right now, the only thing I can pull over when I do the integration is like where people stand on training. And I mean, I'm like 36 pages of training documents.
Oh, Mark's on it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Switch to know before, Mark. We added campaigns and
yeah.
modules to
Well,
that.
she said smile back first. Let me answer smile back. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for stealing my thunder.
Hey, that's what I do.
No before. Oh, I don't have no before data on our demo.
No.
Do you have that
No,
available, Jeff?
No, but we added these drop downs so you can select a training module or a training campaign there,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
can filter that data and report it out better.
Okay, where are you
So-
at though? How did you get there? Which,
Oh, sorry. I'm on more reports right now.
gotcha, thank
And
you.
then smile back, and then
Yeah.
these are something this is actually also available when you do report builder. and you select this as a component, that those are options that actually come up as well. So let me hit smile
Okay,
back.
thank you.
So they're reporting 1 year and then 6 months or whatever that we have.
Awesome.
Okay.
And my last question was just, does anybody else, when you're doing assets and you click into them to update information manually, that you lose the manufacturer and then you've got to re-enter like Dell or HP? It's been happening since before you guys took over. I was just wondering if it's anybody else's.
I have not
I
heard
know
that
what
bug.
is.
Oh, you got it, Jeff? Okay.
Yeah, I know what that is. Usually that comes from our database. And what I mean by that is if we pull the asset over, we have a small database that can match a serial number or a model number to a manufacturer, and we'll populate that manufacturer date. We'll populate that manufacturer into the field. But when you go in to edit the asset, that still remains open and available for you to update the manufacturer. But if it's a Dell or an HP or any one of those, if you just leave that field alone, it'll auto populate every time when
Okay.
you close that asset editor down. It's just one of
Okay.
those, it's a kind of thing we do it for you kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's
Thank
blank when
you.
you go into edit mode because there's no actual user generated data in that field is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of whether it was happening before or after the acquisition, it's still Andrew Day's fault, I think. So
That is true. That's the default. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
I'll take it.
Andrew looks like a young Orlando Bloom, so I'm just gonna go ahead and call that out.
Yeah.
I've gotten that before.
Yep. Okay.
Oh shoot, I guess we're doing the doppelganger bingo
Yeah,
card
no,
today.
the whole time. And if you guys have seen me with hair, I look like Rufio from Hook. So, but I don't have hair now, so I didn't. Too bad. You guys missed it.
Too late. Awesome. Adam and Andrew, what other sort of overarching topics have been on your guys' mind around LCI, generally speaking, that you'd love some feedback on?
I can jump in. So on the integration piece, you can kind of forget about the stuff that ScalePad has. But is there kind of a list of the next things we want to integrate with? And you doesn't have to be specific companies next necessarily, but just categories, yeah, of like other stuff you'd want to bring into LCI.
Connect Secure, Cyber CNS, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Makes sense. Anything else on the security side? I think it's an interesting one. There's lots. Security is a hot topic, and there's lots of stuff coming up there. And Mark, for bringing up Connect Secure, bring it in ideal state. What would you want to do with it?
I think the big thing when I'm looking at some of that, well, you're talking about inventory and stuff like that. Be nice to, compare that against my RMM tool.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other thing is, Connect Secure has, really good reports on, what's missing patch wise, maybe some things that the RMM's not picking up, but, it's consolidating some of that information, and not so much that we're going to, do patch reports out of LCI or anything like that, but, it just gives us a good idea of what we might be missing, or having that information there.
Makes perfect sense. I'm just gonna throw an idea out there. Feel free to, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. But imagine you bringing in data from Connect Secure or kind of some sort of security tool. And we had that problem earlier of, we might have something that's out of date coming in from ConnectWise on a device. If we could check another source, be like, hey, you know what, this thing, we've seen it 7 months ago from ConnectWise, but we see it yesterday from Connect Secure. Would you want to kind of like tie that together and be like, yeah, that thing's clearly still active in the organization, so keep it on the list? Like, would you want to kind of tie data sources together?
That would be nice. I know, Connect Secure you can, within ConnectWise, you can associate a different, asset. One from Connect Secure and one from, we use Ninja. You can tie those together, but that's a manual process, and I don't
Oof.
manually through there
No.
and do all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
but yes, that would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think what Adam's referring to is Lifecycle Manager actually checks multiple sources to kind of do some intelligent deduping of the asset to understand, what the correct data is, and so we could leverage some of that same technology potentially for doing those additional checks. It reminds me of ping alerts. You kind of almost want to have a second route or a second source or a third source, doing a ping before you've catalog it as a downed, endpoint or server or website or what have you. That's super powerful.
And even with Augment, I mean, I know you guys have the Augment, but the pieces that you have with Augment right now is just going to be on their Shadow IT stuff, not on their 365. Now, I know you can bring in some other sources on 365, scores and all that, but you can set up maybe a best practice within Augment to say, hey, some of this stuff's not really important, to our, client base, stuff like that, and just report on that, because Microsoft Secure Score, it can come overwhelming, and you're dumping a lot of stuff. I don't hand that Secure Score over to anybody, just standpoint. You'd have to go through, and there's so much stuff that just, I guess what I'd like to do is see a best practice that we can set up a template for, and add things or remove things or whatever down the road too. So
Interesting. I wonder if because I agree with you. I think in my practice, I found that the Secure Score was just overwhelming in most cases for a conversation, a customer-facing conversation. And so we would distill it into whatever our specific initiatives were. And so if we were trying to get MFA rolled out across the board, then that was the initiative, and that was the thing that we were tracking. But would mapping back to if there was an assess or an initiative or something on the roadmap, would mapping that back to a Secure Score category or item somehow provide I guess visibility into the or the ability to affect the Secure Score for improving it? Because I'm curious where a Secure Score can play a role here, because obviously it'll alert you to just gross negligence, but where does the rubber meet the road where a Secure Score is concerned in most cases, right?
yeah, it's a hard one with Secure Score. Like I said, some of the stuff that they have, yeah, I see where they're getting the information from, but how do you filter out, and kind of like what you were saying is, maybe I don't want to highlight that in this particular round, but for down the road, we might want to address that, or just flag it and say, hey, we know about it, and we just at this time or down the road, we don't even want to do anything about some of those things on Secure Score. So I don't know, maybe somebody else has some different opinions on Secure Score, but that thing is, like I said, I don't share that information.
Yeah.
At least out of what you guys are doing. Well, like I said, Augment, you can set up policy based on what you want to secure to.
I thought Microsoft had announced or communicated that they were working on a more of an action-based or recommendations-based approach to Secure Score, kind of more of the small business cybersecurity baseline type of stuff. I'll see if I can find that, because that may be the next generation of Secure Score, which is a little bit more accessible to the average small business and therefore MSPs. So I'll see if I can find that, Andrew, because I think it would be an interesting thing to keep present.
and one of the things Connect Secure is going to be doing in their upcoming release by September is actually doing remediation stuff. You know, but you know, I don't know how well that's going to work or not, but you can remediate, you know, maybe a secure score or whatever item. So, but just get a checklist of sorts to kind of cover with your client, you know, what's important.
Gotcha. And would you want, sorry, did they say they do auto remediation? So Connect Secure will actually fix it and make the change?
Yeah, they're supposedly going to be doing some changes. Now, Augment, you can do some things in there, but you have to click on it and turn them on.
Yeah.
Not everything within that secure score can you do, but you know, probably half of them you can just, you know, switch a lever and turn it on, turn that feature on and stuff like that without having to go on in and to Azure and making changes to whatever security item that you want to make a change to.
Gotcha. And if I don't know, I'm not familiar with their API, but imagine we could like pull in the things that can be remediated. Would you want kind of like those actions, like maybe part of a recommendation, like part of a proposal? So
Recommendation. I was thinking more of a, like, you know, the assessment too.
Okay.
I think that would be more useful in those assessments of, you know, reviewing that. I'm not saying we're going to review it every time we have a meeting with them, but you know, once a year might not be too bad, unless there's some, you know, high level security issue going on. And maybe we need to, well, we probably just had to reach out to them anyway on something like that. But yeah, it would be kind of nice to bring in some of those things into assessment and let your system pull that automatically in, and then we can just kind of show what we've gotten done, and you know, if they want to turn things on or turn things off type things too.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like, and like these are the problems identified. Like these are ones that like we can take action on right away, and like we have fixed these ones, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, we sync just the overarching secure score currently, and I think a lot of what is maybe a disconnect in the client-facing conversation is that often a 50% secure score is actually pretty good. For example, depending on the things that you care about, right? And so maybe there's for the option or for the ability to enable a friendlier conversation with customers. Is to have an adjusted score on the LCI side that excludes certain components of the Microsoft Secure Score that you don't care about, or that, because you can't do that on the Microsoft side. It just gives you an immutable score. But I think for the purpose of a customer-facing conversation, you know, translating that to your baseline or whatever acceptable is, or even to a color, you know, green, yellow, red would be an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, that would be nice too.
And Mark, on that secure score, do you not normally not use it very much because it's kind of a scary looking score,
you know,
and it's not market actionable?
Well, the thing is, I mean, you could print it out and try to go over some of this, but it is overwhelming. It's probably not, you know, good use of time, at least in there, in what we call our strategy meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's more of you know, presenting something to the client. Here's some recommended things we want to turn on, or if that's, you know, not applicable, you know, select some of those type of things. But also, you know, have a historical, hey, the customer said he's, you know, doesn't want anything to do with that particular one. You know, kind of like, you know, one of the things on Secure Score is, you know, having a logo out on the 365 website. Now, you know, is that going to harm anything? No, but you know, it's on the
it's on the score. It's gonna
it's on the score too.
Yeah.
And it might drag you down, but it's probably a good idea to put your logo out on the 365 site and stuff too. So
yeah,
you know, those type of things, and also prioritize them too. So you can say, hey, high, medium, low, like you were saying with the lights and stuff too. So
would it
By
be
the way, a pro tip: if you use an SVG, it'll actually adapt the size to the proper pixel density, so it always looks nice and crisp.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And if you could somehow, I'm just making this up. If you could somehow like compare that score to like other companies of a similar size, so like it shows like less just like, hey, everybody's at 50%, but hey, you know, for companies of your size that we work with, like let's say we gather it all through LCI, like, you know, most people are at 45%, but you're at 50%. You're actually pretty good. Like, can kind of give insight into those areas. Would that, yeah, kind of like a fairly specific comparison. Would that help?
I think so. I think so. Just to maybe prod some people to, you know, making some changes, and a lot of that, you know, for our client base, most of them we would have to initiate, because most of the clients are not going to go out to the 365 account and make those changes. But also, you know, how do you make those changes? You know, that's one good thing about what Augment's doing. They'll actually give you, you know, here's what you do or what you can do behind the scenes. But
yeah,
I'm not saying that you guys do that, but anyway.
Yeah, and Jeff's got a comment in here. Those score reports are so long that trying to come through it. Would say that that's what we pay you guys to take care of, which is fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe if we had like these more comparisons, could like highlight specific parts of it, be like, hey, you know, for the most part, you're kind of industry standard, but there's one piece is like kind of jumping out. We want to fix that for you, or something along those lines.
Yeah, something that's high, maybe a high. You know, let's get those resolved, and then we'll figure out, you know, do we do like PII type stuff, and you know, companies might
or like more specific, actionable. It's going to bring you up in line with the industry.
Yeah, and I think that would be more under the assessment area and stuff like that too.
Makes sense.
The other item that I'd like to see, it's kind of like that quadrant table that you sent out, Luis. I think you sent it out a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember but they had
the common sense cybersecurity is sort of the magic quadrant.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool if we could figure out how to, you know, and you know, do that for a client. Is, you know, here's where we're at with some of these things, and maybe don't have some of these items because we don't have that particular service enabled for your site and stuff too. Yeah, common sense security.
Yeah, you know, I like that because often people don't necessarily want to be put in the effort to get like, you know, to the 100% score and be the, you know, the best security posture out there, but they probably don't also want to fall behind, right? So if you can kind of say, hey, you're kind of in this quadrant, we should get you over here to where it's, you know, you're kind of more normal.
Yeah, I totally agree. And some are not. You know, I have some clients that, you know, are they security conscious to a point? Yeah. Like, you know, they don't. It's not like they, you know, they don't want to be down, of course, but you know, if their data got breached and stuff like that, it would be the end of the world for them. But you know, for some other clients, you know, yeah, that would be a huge problem.
Yeah. And there's a question here.
That would also be huge for your business to know, you know, what clients are doing better than others and which ones, you know,
falling behind.
Yeah, or that you might need to take your hands off, or whatever the case may be.
It could be true too.
I mean, a segment chart for I mean, if we had the data based on assessments, or maybe Secure Score, maybe Augment, maybe some of these other integrations, if we have that data, if we could get that data, segmenting that would just be so slick. That would be fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, we just got to find the best data points to segment.
Yeah, exactly. And how are you going to pull it? Are you going to pull it directly, or is it something that we can pull over to the PSA? You know, those type of things too. So,
jumping back to Secure Score, so we've talked in the past about, can we make ScalePad or Lifecycle has global telemetry on all of these answers? Can we get some normalization? So like other MSPs and the answers, but we all have our own assessment questions, so you can't really globally compare. But Secure Score is the same for everybody. You guys have the ability to say, hey, this one's off, but from 9 out of 10 clients, it's on.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
I think overarchingly, the peer pressure of benchmarking is probably a good thing, because you know, we academically, I think the MSP industry gets a lot of benchmarking, but I think small business clients don't. And so even revealing some of this in the client facing reports, be like, hey, 9 out of 10 businesses have MFA enabled, could be just the extra little bit of juice for a client to feel like they want to take action.
Yeah. And 9 out of 10 of like businesses your size, right? I think that would be like, they might have it in their head that, oh, I'm a small business. That part doesn't apply to me. But if I find
We
out
talked
that,
about
you know,
vertical in the past too, Adam. Like,
Yeah.
It's a big vertical.
Yeah.
Okay, powerful.
For sure.
It would also be nice if the secure score showed me what licenses are required. So like some of them require an Azure AD Plan 2 license, and my clients aren't going to buy that, so I don't care about the score. If there was a way to filter, only show me ones based on the licensing they already have. I don't know if Microsoft actually codes their score that way, but that would be nice.
Yeah. Surprise, they want you to buy the more expensive plan.
Yeah, secure score gets blamed for being a good marketing tool more than anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Also, we made an assessment. We cherry picked the secure score stuff that we knew we could turn on with very little effort. We made an assessment for that, and then we scored it, and then we just said, look, you've got one of these 13 turned on. We have a single project we can do. It's $1,500. We'll go to get you from a 76 to an 83. Just do this.
Perfect.
That worked well.
Yeah.
We're almost at the end of a year cycle of getting that every client through that. It worked really well.
Cool. Yeah, I really like that.
And we got a lot of people to buy business premium licensing because of that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was my one single biggest roadblock, was getting everybody moved to small business premium, because like conditional access was blocked. All the sort of key security things were kind of needing that. But I like this idea of defining the initiative baseline. And it's kind of like an assessment, really. You know, you could do a security focused assessment that is kind of initiative focused, and that you know, your account managers or VCOs riff on that for the next year.
Yeah, it could come across as like less salesy maybe with your clients too. Like, hey, I'm not trying to push this, but like you're out of line from the benchmark.
I had two that I typed out. I wasn't sure if I was going to say them, but since I started talking again, I guess I can say them.
I was done reading.
I don't want to take up everybody's time. I feel like I already talked too much, but
No, that's great.
one of them, I mean, I think both of these are requests I've put in, but one of them is the spreadsheet view for the budget is great. I use it all the time, but people are visual and it's really easy to just give me a bar chart there. The same way you guys have right above the assets table, just give me a bar chart so that big waves look like big waves, not like every other number in the table. And then the other one is the roadmap view is really nice to have. You know, there's labor cost, material cost, replacement cost, recurring cost, the total cost, all on every card. But sometimes we want to zoom out and it could make those cards way smaller. What I want to just see is, where do we have big piles? We have too many things in one quarter. We have too many, you know, from an IT fatigue perspective, or from so many things can't get done in one simple quarter. I wish we could zoom out better. And if you could give me the ability to hide 6 of those things, then the cards would get a lot smaller. It'd be a lot easier to zoom out.
Kind of like collapse them and like sum up the costs.
Before I had this Kanban board, I used Lucidchart to track recommendations. And the way Lucidchart does it, they have a really simple show hide field. And so you can just turn on and off whatever one you want to see. And so if you want to zoom way out, you just uncheck all the stuff you don't want to see right now, and it all disappears, and all the cards get real small, and it's a lot easier to start moving them around.
There's a really cool thing, Greg, in the like sort of project management software that we use called UTrack for like tracking our sprints and stuff. And it's like it has this, I would show it, but it has like all our features and stuff that we're working on there for Lifecycle Manager. So, but it has this slide thing at the top that goes from small, medium to large. And each time, so small just shows like the title of the chunk, and then medium shows a little bit more detail, and then large shows even more detail.
That sounds a lot like that's the main ask, but I also would like to turn off material cost, replacement cost, recurring costs sometimes, instead of having to be forced to show it all the time.
Okay, I've copy pasted your comment into my notes.
You know, I've had this request. I'm on Mac. I use BusyCal as my calendar tool because you can plug in multiple sources into the one thing. And for the longest time, every time they send me any kind of email, I reply with with the same request, which is I'd like to be able to turn off all the details of my events so that it just shows the blocks of time that are busy on my calendar, so I can send somebody a screenshot, you know, of my calendar. And then so it's kind of the same thing. You just want to kind of show glossy high level things without all the details.
Why do you want to send someone a screenshot of your calendar?
Man, some people don't want to
Flex?
click your
Flex on
calendar
how busy you are?
link. Yeah, it's so I can show how busy I am. Yeah, no, that's not why. Sometimes it's just people are visual and or you're on a different time zone, and so I can solve the problem by changing my time zone, sending them a screenshot for them to pick a time that way. And I don't use like a calendar service on my personal calendar, so sometimes it's easier that way.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that also speaks to I'm dating myself because I've had that request of those guys for the last 10 years, and 10 years ago we didn't really use calendar booking links as much. So
And Greg, I love requests like that, or like little things like, hey, let me do a bar chart, or let me like reduce some fields, because it's often not difficult for not making promises or commitments, but it's often not difficult, but it like has a high impact on your user experience. So those are great ones.
Sounds like Andrew's gonna get it done tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah.
There's
I
no
spent my
problems.
whole weekend on it.
We're just collecting the feedback.
yeah, you can tell he was already in UTrack entering the request. So there you go. Well, look at that. Top of the hour, 3 minutes out. I would love a little thumbs up reaction in the Zoom panel if you thought this conversation, generally speaking, around some of the product functionality and features and stuff like that was useful and insightful, and if we should do it somewhat more regularly. I'd love to bring these guys back for occasional deep dives into functionality and stuff. And otherwise, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Shay, Andrew, and Adam for joining us today and letting everybody get a chance to meet you. And we'll send a recap on Monday, as we normally do, with a link to the session. If you have any follow-up questions, you know, this is a team. We're all available at any time for conversations.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
One thing
I
to add,
have an ask actually.
go ahead, Andrew.
So me and one of our product designers right now, we're looking for some lifecycle insights partners to talk a little bit more in depth about contract management. We have like the contracts part of LCI. We have some questions on that. So if you're using, I guess, ConnectWise Manage or Autotask and making use of the contract management module in LCI, I'm just going to put my email in the chat. I think I got it correct. Yeah. And then I would love to set up just like a half an hour discussion just to deep dive on some of the processes around contract management, if anyone's up for it. But yeah, thanks so much.
Perfect. I was just gonna kind of add to that as well, that if you ever want to speak with product one-on-one, obviously Andrew's looking out doing some outreach right now. But if you run into a feature you want to talk about, or just want to give us your thoughts, we'll always make the time, right? We'll clear a calendar and we'll make the time to speak with you.
Those are those guys. I don't need to be bothered by anything except for emotional outbursts. So just let me know about all those other
Myself
things.
and Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the dream catcher, Mark. I can tell. Yeah.
I am. Catch them dreams, man. Set them free.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Once again, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you on the flip side.
See you guys.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Ciao.
Okay.